Okay, good evening to all. We are on, and a happy fourth. We are on Ches Amid Beis. We're in the middle of the Sugya of Tzedakah. We're 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 11 lines to the bottom. Tan Rabbanan. Gabay Tzedakah, Ein Rishoy Lifrosh Zemizeh. We said yesterday that you had two Gabayim, because since there's Shrirus, they can go ahead and take a mashkin from a person. So for authority, you need two people. So they can't go ahead and leave one another and collect. They can't go ahead and leave one another collect. One can go to the shuk, I guess, and one can go to the chanus. If you look at Rashi tells us one goes to Lifrei Semizem if they're chashad. What's the reason they can't? It's because of suspicion. There's this, since they usually collect as two, and this one's collecting as one, they might be suspicious that what he is he's stealing. Many on Ches Amid Beis. That's showing where we're up to. And Lifrei Semizeh, and Aval Zeh Parish Lachanus V'Zeh L'Shar. Zeh Ligvois Miyoshvei Hashar. They can go to people who live in that area or in that area. They have to be able to see two at the same time. In other words, they don't have to be in the exact place at the same time, but you have to see two of them collecting at the same time. So if two of them are collecting at the same time, you're going to know that they're on the up and up. These are all because of chashad. The following Gemara, everything that is transpiring is because of suspicion. You want to be squeaky clean. Matzah mois b'shuk, la'yitneim b'sayt kisei. If they find money in the street, let's say that it's Hariel Shalai, it's a place where it's permitted, mois mefuzares, for example, then don't put it b'kisei in his wallet. Put it in the tzedakah pushka. And when you'll come home, yitleim, you'll take it. In other words, if you're going to go ahead and pick it up in the street and put it in your pocket, people will be chosheh that you're taking tzedakah and putting it in your pocket. So what do you do? Even though this money is legally yours, put it in the pushka, and then when you get home, take it out. You were owed $100, a mana by you $100, 100 zuz, right? $100. Upare b'shuk, and he pays you in the street. Don't put it in your wallet. Again, all just to avoid suspicion. Tan Rabbanan. Gabay tzedakah shein lem aniyim l'chalek. A gabay tzedakah doesn't have enough, has too much money. There's not enough aniyim, and now you worry about the money. It's going to get spoiled. We spoke about copper spoiling. So what they would do, they would go ahead and take the copper and put it into silver. So gabay tzedakah shein lem aniyim l'chalek. Partin la'acherim ve'im partin la'atzman. They go ahead and they should go ahead and exchange for other people, but not for themselves. Don't even though you have the silver, you have the silver coins, don't go ahead and change it, because people are going to be chosheh that you're going to take a little a better cut. You can worry about again chashad. Gabay tamchoy, they collect for the food stuff, right? So now you're collecting food. You have extra food. Shein lemaniyim l'chalek moichel nacherim. You sell it to acherim ve'moichel natzim. Don't sell them to yourself. Again, all because of people shouldn't taking advantage of your position. Moishel tzedakah eimoinus ashtayim. Achas. Don't count 2, 4, because people are going to see 2 and they're going to think that you're going to take one for yourself. So count one by one. Rabbi Meresh initially Yosef Mar at Sipi de Bekanishta. Rabbi would not sit on the mats in the base Knesset because they were purchased with tzedakah funds, and he held initially that anything that was set aside for tzedakah has to be used for tzedakah. And if you're going ahead and buying mats for the base medrash using tzedakah funds, he didn't want to have enough from it. So keeping the Shama Lahad Tanya, since you heard the following brisa, that you can go ahead and, what we said yesterday, change it for anything you want. We saw Rabbeinu Tam would even go ahead and pay the security people of the city that you could use it for that. Havi Yosef. Then Rabbi, at that point, when he heard that brisa, then he began to sit. Rabbi Meresh initially, Havi Ovid Mar Trei Kisei. Rabbi would go ahead and he had 2 pushkas. Chad Lani the Alma, Chad Lani the Masim. One for the Aniyim of the city, one for the Aniyim that came from different places. Even the Shamal Adam Shmuel, the Rav Tachlifa Baravdimi, Ovid Chakisa. Then he went ahead and they said made one kiss. The Osni Allah and make a condition. Rashi says, Maslim at Siba l'chalkam l'chol haba. that when you collect it from the tzibah, you would say the following: I'm collecting for whoever you want to give it to. I'm collecting for everyone I want to give it to. We had this interesting shiloh about years ago. In school, there's different funds. They collect for different reasons, and we had extra money collected for a specific reason, and we wanted to use it for something else. And I remember asking the shiloh, and the answer was, if you would have collected stam, then you could. But if you collect it for this particular thing, save it next year for that particular thing, because you collect it, and that's this Gemara, right? It's this Gemara that, in other words, you would have to ask the Allah, because you have to, when you collect it, you have to make the condition. So Iu Nami, now Rabbi also Abed Chakisa Asni Allah, he would go ahead and make one pushka, and he would go ahead and make that condition on it. Rav Ashi says, I don't even have to make a condition. Anything that comes in, it comes out of my das. And whoever needs it, I'll give it to him. So there was Beitrei Tafke, there was two butchers. The Avdi and Yona Bahadi Adade. They made the following din. So as a preview or a little piece of information, we spoke about many times that there was no air conditioning in those days. So the butcher basically was the sheichet. So what would happen? People would get together, X amount of people, and they would buy part of the animal and they would shech. But you wouldn't have massive amount of shchita and refrigeration like we have. You'd have a very, very, so being a butcher was a very, very, especially if it's more than one, you'd have to make sure that there's not too much meat because it's going to spoil. So these two people made the deal. This is your day, and this is my day. Anyone comes, this is your day. Anyone comes, this is my day. And they then said to each other, and if you go ahead and shecht on a day that you're not supposed to, the skin, which would go to the butcher, I guess that was part of his payment, the leather, and we used for leather, then we're going to rip it up and you can't use it. That was the deal they made. So there's debate trading with these two butchers. The Avdei and Yon Ibahadi Adad, they made the following deal between them. The Cholman, the Ovid, Beyuma, the Chavre, anyone who would go ahead and work on the day of his friend, they would go ahead and rip up the skin that he couldn't use it. So Azal Chaminayu of Beyuma, the Chavre, and Taka, one of them went and he worked on the day of his friend. So what did they do? He went and ripped it up. Asla made the Rava, the one that I ripped up, came in front of Rava, and lo and behold, Rava was mechayiv him to pay. And even though they made this deal, Rava was mechayiv him to pay for destroying the skin. He said yesterday we saw that we have a kanas. They made a kanas. Anyone who would go ahead and be over on the Tanai will get a kanas. So l'chayra, they could go ahead and say to rip up the skins. So why are you saying not? Why does he have to pay? Nonetheless, lo yahadale Rava. Rava did not change his mind. Rav Papa said, Rav Papa shapa avid lo yahadale. It's very good that he didn't change his mind. Midi, hani mili. When did they say you can make conditions like this? It's hecha deleka adam chashev. That's when there's not an adam chashev. Aval hecha dika adam chashev lav kol kaminayu. When there's an adam chashev, then you don't have that choice. If there's an adam chashev. So the Rambam in Hilchas Mechira, Perik Yudalid, Halacha Tes, Rishoyim b'nei Yair lahem shar l'chol davar sheyirtzu. They can go ahead and set the price. Vafilu l'basar l'lechem l'hasnes b'neihem, and make a condition between them. Kol mi shiyavar yanshu oisa kach b'kach. That's it. They decide the einish. They decide the einish. V'chein Rishoyim anshe umaniyos lifsek b'neihem. People of Amaniyas, their worksmen. So therefore, an umin, in this case, the umin happened to be a butcher. You shouldn't work on the day of the other one. I'm thinking the following, in answer to your question, Avrami, that what do we want you to do? We want you not to work. So what are you going to say? If you work, I get your skin. That's not enough of a deterrent. I mean, I don't want you working. Period. I don't want you working. Period. I don't want you working. So what? So if you work, you'll get my skin. So the guy may make a cheshbon, you know what? So I'll work and I'll give him the skin, if that's the thing. But if I'm going to take a loss, no, it's not a good answer. Okay, forget, not a good answer. Okay, money ice lives like b'neihem. So yasa echad b'yom sheyasu chaveru chayotze behen v'chol mishiyav al tanai yonshu oisa kach v'kach. Okay, Gemara, right? Here's what I want. Yud Aleph. the medamon amurim that you punish them on the condition. Listen to the lashon of the Rambam, guys. That's the Medina she'ein by chacham chashuv l'takein ma'isa haMedina ulatzliach darkei yeshveha. In other words, the Gemara just says Adam Chashuv, so you could think it's Stam Talmud Chacham. Based on the lashon of Rambam, it's not Stam Talmud Chacham. It's a person that's there to attacking the actions of the country and to go ahead and be matzliach and keeping people on the up and up. Right? Then if you have a person like this, then the Tanai doesn't mean anything. The lashon of Rambam, very, very powerful, right? Not just Stam and Adam Chashuv, but Maisa, the charge of the Medina to be matzliach that everything should be on the up and up. Says the Gemara Vaita. Tanrabanan, ein machashvim b'tzedakah im gavei tzedakah v'lei behegdish. You give them money, you don't have to know what it goes for. They don't have to give you a cheshbon what it goes for. They give them the money, you don't have to give a cheshbon what it goes for. Ein machashvim b'tzedakah im gavei tzedakah v'lei behegdish im hagizbarim. Yafa pishein raya ledava. Even though I don't have a complete raya, but zeich ledava. I have a zeich ledava. It says regarding the Beis Hamikdash, lo yichashvu esa anoshim asher yitnu esa kesef al yadam. Right? They give it, but since they gave it be'emunah, and therefore you don't have to go ahead and check them out. You don't have to go ahead and check them out. So if why is not a raya l'dava? Says Rashi. That's Rashi 4 lines down. Shein raya l'dava. The loy got begabe tzedakah. This pasuk is speaking about gizbarim of hegdish. El biz gubari hegdish. And noistem libam lo'isei malacha. Who go ahead and give over their lave to those who do malacha. Shapoilim merubim lemalachais. Harbe, there were so many workers. Legoydram to make walls, lechaitzvei even, and to use stones, lekasafim, and for the shoulders, ulchamrim and for schleppers, veliknais eitzim. And there's too much of a cheshbon. So everyone would go ahead and give, and the understanding would be they give mat. So therefore, it's not a raya gemura, but it's an allusion to it because gavit tzedakah. Top taisvis. Babishin raya ledava zeich ledava. Raya gemura einoi. The shiny haslam shayit tzadikim gemurim. He doesn't say, guys, it's because of gizbarim and hegdish. He says because they were tzadikim gemurim. But a guy's not a tzadik omei nachinami. Maybe you. Hey, 1 second. Where's my money going to? Right? I mean, the tzedakahs. You want to know where your money's going to. Okay. Anyway, weiter. Amr Balaza. Afa bishiyesh lo adam gizbar. Even though a person has a gizma nema b'tech beisai, yatsa v'yivne. You should go ahead and unloose the pile and count it before you give it to him. Shnemar v'yitzuru v'yivnu. First day v'yitzuru and then v'yivnu is counted. Amrafuna baitkin l'mizainos. You go ahead. A guy comes to an ani comes and he says he wants food. You could check out his credentials whether he's an ani or not. Vein baitkin l'ksus. But if he's coming for clothing, he's degrading himself by wearing very little clothing or ugly clothing. Or Rashi says arum completely. I can't imagine arum that he meant arum. But then you don't have to check. You can give him clothing. If you want, I can tell you it's a pasuk. If you want, I can tell you it's a svara. I come at mevaze. This person with ksusa, it's embarrassing for him, so you don't have to check. The highlight come mevaze, but the person for food is not. It's not a bizayin for him, and therefore you have to check and make sure of his credentials. That's the svara. The pasuk says, get the whole pasuk. And we're going to dash in the word, guys. Paroish, not even though it's written here with a samach, we're going to dash in with a sin. Paroish means to be mafarish, to go ahead and clarify. So paroish l'rov lachmecha b'shinksiv. It's really written with a samach. Paroish v'hoda havle. First paroish, first check his credentials. V'hoda then havle, then give him mat food. So that's the pasuk. But regarding clothing, it says kisira arum ukisisai. Kisira la'alta. When you see immediately, you give him. It doesn't mean you have to check in. Okay, that's the first shita. Now we have an opposite shita. That was the shita of Rabbi Laza. Rabbi Yehuda Omer, baikin l'ksus. For clothing, you do check. Vein baikin l'mezainis. We don't check for food. Ibay same as svara. Ibay same akra. Ibay same as svara. I come at Sirla when he's famished, he's in Sar. The highlight come at Sirla, but when he's without clothing, he's not in Sar. He buys same akra. It's interesting to have the samach over here. Paris la'alter means immediately. Udkarinan, udkarinan. Basam kesira oram ksusai kishiyirelecha. When it's seen to you, when it becomes clear to you. Tanya goes to Yehuda. That what? That first you check for clothing, you don't check for food. Omar kesuni boitkim achrav. Kesuni, I want clothing, you check after him. Pinasuni bim farnas making me food, ain't boitkim. That's the shita of Rabbi Yehuda and not Rabbi Elazar. Tan Hasan. Ain't poiskin la'ani. Koivim makom la'makom. Mikika b'pedunin ma'arbe sa b'sela. You don't give less to an ani who's coming from place to place from a loaf of bread with that a 4 saw is sold for a selah, and then you give him what nice and light pranos. We had this guy some Erevin. We had it in Erevin. We had it by Mitzayra, the shear. It's 1/4 of a kav. When the bread it comes out to 1/4 of a kav. So that's the amount of bread you have to give him. Nice and light pranos lino. You give him pranos of lodging. My pranos is lino. What's pranos of lodging? Papa Purya, you give him a bed. Sadya, and you give him a pillow. Shabbos, if the guy shows up on Shabbos, you give him a mazon of 3 sudas. If he goes from door to door and he's not being samech on the community fund, ain't this because he's taking care of himself, so you don't have to give him anything. Anya, there was this poor person, he was going what from door to door. The Osla came to Rav Papa, who came from Rav Papa, and Rav Papa didn't give him anything. Now, Rav Papa had mega bucks, right? He was a wealthy man, and he still didn't give him anything. Somewhere of Sama, Bered Rav Yevel, Rav Papa, if you don't give him in other words, certainly going to say if the rich Rav Papa didn't give him anything, I'm not going to give him anything. And if the famous Rav Papa didn't give him anything, I'm not going to give him anything. And said, Lema, should he die? So Amalei, Rav Papa said, Vatanya, we paskin that what you don't have to give him. So Amalei, so Rav Sama, Bered Rav Yevel said, Rav Papa, ain't skakan levi matana maruba. You don't have to give him a full matana. I'm the skakan levi matana wetis. You have to give him something. You don't give him nothing. A person should not go ahead and refrain from giving what? A third of a shekel for a year. That's the minimum. Now tell us, there's a din of Maisa Ksafim, there's a din of Tzedakah. There's 2 different things. The 2 different things. The din of Maisa is one din, and the din of what of Tzedakah, the minimum amount of Tzedakah is a third of a shekel of the year. Shedemar, it says, Madnu, we took upon ourselves, Oleinu, mitzvahs lases Oleinu, shlishus hashekel b'shana, la'avodas beis Elokeinu. So we have a third of a shekel. Some people say, they gave chatzi shekel. They gave chatzi shekel every year, but at this time it went down to a third of a shekel. It was the metal went down in price. Ram Ravasi, shekula tzedakah kenega kol mitzvahs. Tzedakah is equal to all the mitzvahs. Shneimar ve'madnu aleinoi mitzvahs. It says, and you went ahead and you established upon us mitzvahs. Mitzvah in kasiv kan. It doesn't say mitzvah, but it says what? It says mitzvahs. It says what? It says mitzvahs. That so the Mashah says the following: that anyone who closes his eyes from giving tzedakah, the Gemara is going to say later on, it's like Ovid Avodah Zarah. A person, Avodah Zarah is Shekula Kenegel Kol HaMitzvahs. It's the Isra Avodah Zarah. And HaKadosh Baruch Hu will pay back L'misha Choynim Esadal, people who lend money to people who are poor, and people go ahead, and a person, Umisha Nimne Milase Tzedakah L'dal, HaKadosh Baruch Hu said you should give money to a dal. So if you go ahead and refrain from giving money to a dal, in sense you're saying that what? You don't believe that a Kodesh Baruch Hu is going to pay you. So that's like you don't believe in a Kodesh Baruch Hu, right? Hashem says give money to the dal, give money to the person. If you don't, you're saying that Hashem is not going to refund you the money. So you're kaifer in a Kodesh Baruch Hu, and therefore it's connected called the mitzvahs. It's very interesting svar again. Avodah Zarah is connected called the mitzvahs. A person, a Kodesh Baruch Hu is what is Kodesh Baruch Hu's midah? he's chaynim dal. He goes ahead and gives to the poor. So if you don't give to the poor, you're saying that what? I don't believe HaKadosh Baruch Hu will give me my money. So basically what you're saying, I don't believe in HaKadosh Baruch Hu. And therefore it's Keneged Kol HaMitzvah, says the Maharsha, in a very roundabout way. Says the Gemara Vaita. Amar Rabbi Laza, Gadol HaMa'aseh, greater is the one who causes other to give tzedakah, Yosem Mina Oisha. In other words, the Gabbai tzedakah is even bigger than the Baal tzedakah. Shenemar, V'hayemaisa hat tzedakah, Shalom, V'avoidus hat tzedakah, Hashkeit V'vetach, Ad Olam. Zocha aloi parish l'rov lachmecha. If he's zocha, he parish l'rov lachmecha. If the person what is zocha, if the person what is zocha, then it says aloi parish l'rov lachmecha. He gives. Why is he zocha? He's zocha for this good mazel. Like Hashem says, you'll have good mazel. Why? Because you parish l'rov because you give from your money to aniyim. Lo zocha, and he doesn't give tzedakah. Now, behind the end of the pasuk, it says ba'aniyim merudim, and the merim that are. Merudim is a hard word to teach. I have the crying. This is speaking that merudim, that the Romans are going to come crying of poverty, so they're going to end up taking your money, and they're going to end up ba'aniyim merudim tavi boyas. They're going to come on and take your money. So if you're zocha, you'll be go ahead right for the brachas. You'll give tzedakah, yisaycha. But if not, if you don't give tzedakah, you'll end up giving it, but you're going to give it to the goyim. Amlu Rava lebnei Machusa. They were wealthy people. Matusi minachu, I beg you, Aisa b'hadei adadi. Go ahead and force the other one to give tzedakah. Ki hech lahavi lechu shalom malchusa, in order that you have shalom malchus. Because we see over here, if you don't give tzedakah, you're going to have the goyim come and attack and take your money. But Beis Hamikdash Kayim, Adam Shekel Shekloi, but Beis Hamikdash was around, person was given shekel, Mischapalai, and it would be a kapara with the kavanas that are brought. Ach Shashem Beis Hamikdash Kayim. Now, if a person doesn't have the Beis Hamikdash, so Im Oisa tzedakah, if you go ahead use your money, you give tzedakah mutav, that's great. Im Lav Boyinov Dekachavim V'Noitlam Bisraya. They're going to take it with force. V'Afa Pikein, even though they took it away, nonetheless, Nechshalim tzedakah, Kodesh Baruch Hu will consider an act of tzedakah. Shnemar. Like shayach bit tzedakah. Like shayach means by the gula, but that those noikshim, the one who oppress you, right, bit tzedakah. So it's if why you get tzedakah. Amar Rabbi, Hai Milsa Ishtoyali. Now this is a very interesting Gemara. So this just the words, guys. Before you turn the page, Amar Rabbi, Hai Milsa Ishtoyali Ula. So usually Ula means Ula, the Tana Ula, the Amoira Ula. But if you look at Rashi, Rashi says, Ula mishagesh or chaser de'ime, Uma who made his mother meshuga, sheshes karile hachi oilel. An oil is a young person, hameshageach darke imay, who caused his mother to do something not nice, as we'll see. Shegorim la toisim iderech shanoshim kilakaman. So this is Ula is an oilel. So Rava said this milsa was told to me by this yoinik, by this young child on the days. Mishagesh Orchasei the Ime, who caused his mother to debase herself, as we're going to see, it caused the mother to do something that wasn't so nice. He said in front of Rebbe Laza, "My dichsiv," it says, "The yilbash tzedakah kisiryon, and he'll wear tzedakah like armor. Loimelacha mas siryon, just like armor. Zeh kol klipa v'klipa mitzarefes l'siryon gadol. Each little let's call a coat of arms." Is that what it's called? The coat of arms, male, a male. It's called male, right? So each piece, little piece, it's like not one piece of metal. It's like little pieces of metal. Each little piece of metal, as a matter of fact, Syrian is like the scales of a fish. You find the lashon by Goliath. The same lashon by Goliath is used. It's like the scales of fish. So each one of these little pieces of metal, they mitzaref to a big piece of armor. After tzedakah. Called prutu mitzareves l'cheshbon gadol. At least it'll add up to that 1/3 minimum that you have to give. It'll add up to that 1/3 minimum that you have to give. Reb Chanina amar mehacha. It says this pasuk, not from Yilbas Tzedakah Siryon, but from Uke Beged Idim Kol Tzidkasenu, and the beged of those that are repulsive. All our tzedakahs. Ma beged zeh kol nima v'nima mitzarefes the beged gadol. Just like each piece of clothing, each thread is mitzarefes to a big beged. Av tzedakah kol prutu p'tur mitzal l'cheshbon gadol. So why Why is he bringing this pasuk of repulsive people? Look at Rashi. Rashi says, Idim, Kidim Aginon, V'Yosef, V'Odei, V'Chein, Ma'odem, Beged, V'Yankra, V'Komakam, Makish, Tzedakah, Lebeged, Sitkas, At Tzadikim, Lebeged, Chagan. In other words, even though this pasuk is speaking about, not nice people, nonetheless, we can see from it the idea of whatever beged is, everything that's mitzaref, so I'll apply it to the beged of a tzaddik when he gives tzedakah. Now, this person got this name, this person, Oila Mishagesh Orchasei De'imei. So we're going to see who it is. It's either Rav Achtve or it's Rav Sheshes. Says the Gemara. The boy name Rav Achtve bar Ami Rav Sheshes. Rav Achtve bar Ami, he asked Rav Sheshes, Minayalim Mitzoira Bimesi Puroi Shemetama Adam. Okay, it's outside. Let's go back to Mitzoira. Guy goes to a kohen. The kohen sees his Mitzoira. He puts him away. He's a Mitzoira muchlet. He's a Mitzoira that has been decided he's a Mitzoira. He's totally tamei. He's chutz lamachne, so on and so forth. The kohen comes now. He looks at him chutz lamachne. He finds that he's tahar. He shave his body completely, and he begins to be mesi puroi, the 7 days of counting. On the 8th day, guys, he's going to come and bring his kabbanis with the asham, with the oil and the blood, stick the bahinus in. Okay, so bimei puroi, he's not as tamei as he is bimei mechletes. Mechletes, guys, is tamei like a mace. If you're in the house with him, even if you don't touch him, you have tumas oil. Bimei puroi, we want to prove that he's an avatuma. That's why we want to say that he's an avatuma. So the Gemara wants to know, how do you know bimei puroi during this 7-day period that he's metama an adam? The only thing that can be metama an adam is an avatuma. Certainly, be avaisatuma, but an avatuma is metama adam v'kelim. Good. And a rishon is only metama oichel mashkin, but not adam v'kelim. So how do you know that bimei puroi is an avatuma? Amalai hoyel metama begodim. Since he's metama his begodim, metama adam. Amalei dil metumis b'chiburim shiny. Maybe it's different because they're connected to him. In other words, he's wearing them and therefore they're tummy. But let's say he would touch, guys. Let's say he would touch your beged. Maybe it would not be metama. A beged is considered a kli, right? So if he's not an avatumi, he can't be metama you. You'll tell me he's metama his own begodim. That's maybe because he's wearing them. Maybe tuma b'chiburim that are connected is different than tumas nega. Says Gemara, in the ha hesit nevela. We have a person who's carrying a nevela. The metama begodim, ve'ena metama adam. He's metama the begodim, but he's not metama adam. So why do we see that he's tummy, but doesn't transmit it? So Amalei ve'el sheretz the metama adam inalon. If you're asking me, how do you know that b'mesi puroi? How do you know a sheretz is metama adam? La mishun the metama begodim. It's not because what he's metama the begodim. Amalei sheretz bejiksipe. His sheretz we know is an avatama. It says Aisha sheyiga b'chol sheretz, right? El shichva zera the metama adam. Shichva zera that's metama adam inalon. La mishum the hoyel metama begodim metama adam. Amalei shichva zera nami bejiksipe. It says mafurish that it's avatama. Rabbi says that he touches. So So Rav Achdeve was one by one was taking Rav Papa and he was laughing. That's how easy it was and simple it was to go ahead and slug up Rav Papa's proofs. Cholish daited Rav Sheshes. Excuse, I meant not Rav Papa, Rav Sheshes. Cholish daited Rav Sheshes. Rav Sheshes had Chalishas Hadas, and Ishtik Rav Achdeve bar Ami. He became mute. And he forgot his Torah. So Rav Achdeve, for acting in a very juvenile way in front of Rav Sheshes and causing Rav Sheshes what pain, he was stricken with muteness, and not only that, he forgot his Torah. Ashya Ime came along his mother. Says Rashi, whose mother? Parallel up one, the Rav Sheshes. Came along the mother of Rav Sheshes, the Chabachi Kamei, and he was crying in front of Rav Sheshes. She cried and cried to daven for Rav Achdeve, and he wasn't doing it. Rav Sheshes was not so quick to go ahead and daven for Rav Achdeve. And nonetheless, the mother kept on kept on saying, Amrulay, finally she said, Chazi lahani chade the motzas minayo. Look at these breasts that you went ahead and you nursed from. So that's how she debased herself, that she had to get to a point where she had to show herself in front of Rav Sheshes, her son, and say, look, you nursed from here. Boy, rachmi aleha, v'itze. So therefore she debased herself. He davened for Rav Achdeve and he got better. So according to this, it was Rav Sheshes who was told to daven. If you look at Tosfos, Asi Ime v'Kobachi Kamei, Pirish Rach, the Hainu Ime de Rav Achdavai. It was Rav Achdavai who was stricken, his mother came. Ulidei Kari Oila Mishagish Urche de Ime. And we're calling Rav Achdavai the young child who causes his mother to debase herself. Now the question is, she told Rav Sheshes, these dadim who nursed you, correct? It's not a mother. What caused Rashi to say as Rav Sheshes, guys? Tell us, would you have thought that Rav Sheshes is coming to daven for Rav Achdavai, or you say Rav Achdavai is coming his mother? If you have a mother coming to daven, it's going to be not Rav Sheshes for a stranger. It's going to be the mother of the one who was stricken. It makes sense to say as Rav Achdavai, right? What forced Rashi to say Rav Sheshes? Because the mother said, these dadim that nursed you. So it made sense, right? These continues Taisvis, guys. He caused his mother to be degraded lefnei Rav Sheshes. She was the nursemaid of Rav Sheshes. Rav Achdavai's mother was the nursemaid of Rav Sheshes, and therefore she could say these dadim that nursed you. So very fascinating. What forced Rashi is clear, but it doesn't make sense to say that. Why is Rav Shesh's mother coming, right? Why is Rav Shesh's mother coming? It makes a lot of sense. Okay, anyway, a side point. I'm sure it won't show up anywhere. Not that important. The blog man is going like this now. You're safe with me. Says the Gemara Vayta. Now, bottom line is, what's the bottom line of the Shaila? How do you know that Bimei Sipur is an Avatoma? You didn't answer the question, right? Rav Achdavai slugged up all this proof. With the Asan Allah and Min Allah, and the Shaila that presented itself in front of us, how do you know? Kiryatanya. Rav Shim ben Yochai Omer, Nema Kibus Begodne Bimei Sipuroi. It says that you have to wash his clothing during the 7-day period. That's on that we're discussing. Nema Kibus Begodne Bimei Chilutai. And the days when he's a mitzvah for sure. And now, when he's a normal sure it's an abatama. Mala halon b'mei chilutai, again, when he's sitting as a known mitzvah, mitama adam is mitama adam. Afkan, so too over here mitama adam. So to b'mei sipur is mitama adam. Okay, so that's the answer to Shaila. Now getting back to the regularly programs, scheduled program. Ama Reb Elazar. God lo oiset tzedakah b'seiser. Greater is the person who gives tzedakah b'seiser. Yoisem Moshe Rabbeinu, more than the tefillah of Moshe. The ilu Moshe Rabbeinu k'siv. By Moshe it says, Ki yigorti. I was scared. Mifnei ha'af v'ha'chema. I was scared of af and chema. Rashi tells us af and chema are two legiones, two legions of scary malachim. The ilu ba'oiset tzedakah k'siv. Matin b'seiser, someone who gives b'seiser, yichbe af, he pacifies af. B'shoichet b'cheik chema aza, and the Marsha says b'seiser like cheik, just like cheik is something hidden, so to b'seiser, and it's called shoichet because it bribes Hashem. It bribes Hashem to go ahead and Rashi, let's see Tosfos. God lo oiset tzedakah b'seiser yosem Moshe Rabbeinu, pirish yosem mishkach chema mi Moshe Rabbeinu. More than we find anger by Moshe, but tfilasai. The Afka the Moshe nami also tzedakah b'seisa, even though Moshe also gave tzedakah b'seisa. Shem oisa shah kvar pasuk oisa schlas. Maybe so. Tosh is bothered by this. You don't think Moshe gave tzedakah b'seisa, and Moshe was not able to get rid of it? So the L'chai is asking a kasha, and the answer is that Moshe, maybe the schlas of Moshe's tzedakah had already gone and been gone. Says the Gemara Vayta. Upligid Rabbi Yitzchak. The Amar Rabbi Yitzchak. Af koifa you get rid of that af, but chema in a koifa. Shnemar the shoichad b'cheik chama as it's too strong. In other words, af bisha shoichad b'cheik chama, af bisha shoichad b'cheik chama azla. So in other words, chaz is stronger. So the question is the first part of the pasuk going on this or not? According to Rabbi Elazar, is going on the whole pasuk. According to Rabbi Yitzchak, the latter part of the pasuk is going by itself. Look at Rashi says this. Chema asa adayin hi b'toikva. It's still strong. Rabbi Loza Saba the high shoicha b'chek aresha koy. It's going back on the resha where it says yichbe. The shoicha b'chek yichbe chema aza, and whereas Rabbi Yitzchak saying it's not going back in the first part of the pasuk. Ikad Yami Rabbi Yitzchak called dayin shenaitel shoichad. Any dayin who takes bribery, maybe chema azal oilam brings tremendous anger to the world. Shneimar v'shoicha b'chek. One Rabbi Yitzchak kol anoisim pruta l'ani. Anyone who goes ahead and gives a pruta to an ani, misbarach, he'll be blessed. The sheish brachos. Mafaisa b'dvarim, and someone who doesn't have money and is mafais b'dvarim, misbarach b'yud aleph brachos. He'll get 11 brachos. And nice and put the misbarach b'sheish brachos tichsiv. It says halal parish. This is the pasuk we saw. Parish lachmecha. Vaniyim erudim tavi bayis. Kisira arum. Now, if you look at the bach, guys, the bach aleph. Look at the bach aleph on the side or the bottom, wherever you have it. Bach aleph. Kisira arum ukasiv. Oz yiboka ki shachar oirich 1, v'arkoisecha mehera tatzmiach your healing 2, v'holach lefanechet tzidkecha 3, v'kavod Hashem ya'asfech, and the kavod Hashem will be your schar 4, v'ksiv oz tikra v'Hashem yaneh 5, v'shava v'yomi hineni, and so that's 6. So that is 6. So the Bach brings it. It doesn't. If you have a Gemara, you own right circle the Bach like I did, and you'll know where to look. Now we're going to give 11, but we don't get all 11 either. And hamafaisa b'dvarim, and if a person is misparach b'dvarim, meaning according to that you don't have money, and you don't have money, but you appease the ani, you appease the ani with words. The lashon of the marsha. Let me have it here in the back. No. So a person who gives kesef, you get 6 brachas, and you give mefaisa v'dvarim, and says anoisim kesef v'godel v'gam mefaisa v'dvarim. You do both. Godel may anoisim v'lem mefaisa. It's greater than what than giving and not mefayis. In other words, if you give and you mefaisa v'dvarim, it's even greater than giving and not being mefayis. A person gives money, he's just doing chesed with his money. By mefayis v'dvarim, you're doing chesed with yourself and not just your possessions. That's the marsha. Ubi in Yaakov Kosav Sheroi lefaisa b'dvarim kimishal yodei ein nitzul medina shel Gehenim kimavur behemshech. We are safe from the fires of Gehenim, so therefore he shows a piece of noni because he's doing huge tremendous chesed. Such great is the mitzvah of tzedakah. Okay, so now we're going to get the shita of the 11. Okay, you're going to get the shita of the 11. I counted. You don't get 11. So here's the Gemara. Okay, we did that. Misborich ba'achad esrei brachas. Shnemar v'sofik l'ro'av nafshecha. V'nefesh nano tazbia. The nefesh of an ani, that is muna, you satiate. V'zorach b'choshech oirecha. And the guy's in darkness, right? And you cause him light. Right. V'lei tichlo yimayim. V'afei loscha kitzarayim. V'nochacha Hashem tamid. Hashem is mashkiach you all the time. V'hispia b'tzachachos nafshecha. And the time of hunger and missing in the world, yispia nafshecha, you'll go ahead, and you will be satiated. Ubanu mimcha charbas oilam, and from you will be built up the charbas of the world. Moistei dar v'dar tekaimen. You say this of the old virus you will reestablish. And so he has a list of the 11. Okay, says the Gemara Vaita. Vam Rabbi Yitzchak, Maidich Siv, Voidev Tzedakah v'Chesed, Yimtza Chayim Tzedakah v'Chavoid. Now it's mashma, since you chase after tzedakah, you'll end up giving tzedakah. Right? Mishon the Voidev Tzedakah, Yimtza Tzedakah. Because you're running after tzedakah, you're going to find tzedakah, better not. Right? Says the Gemara, Ella, Loimelecha, Kol Voidev Achat Tzedakah. Anyone who runs and gives tzedakah, the Kodesh Baruch Hu mamtzi loy moyis for Eiseb mitzvah. The Kodesh Baruch Hu will prepare for him money to give out tzedakah. Okay. Rav Nachman by Yitzchak Amar. Rav Nachman by Yitzchak says, "Kadosh Baruch Hu mamsilei b'nei adam hamugonim lasis lehem tzedakah kelekabel lehem schar." In other words, in order to be kind tzedakah, guys, it has to be a real ani. If you give to a person who's not an ani, you're not kind tzedakah, right? So Kadosh Baruch Hu is going to go ahead and be sure that he'll send to you a person who's a real ani. Lafuke mai, lafuke mididorish rabba. The Dorish Rabba, my dechsiv, the pasuk says, "V'yu mechsholem lefanecha be'es apecha," and they'll be mechsholem. They will be mechsholem lefanecha be'es apecha. Rashi. V'yu mechsholem lefanecha es anshe anasais v'yu mekalel shayim mevakshim nafshay. The people at Anasais were going after Yirmiyahu. Yirmiyahu cursed them, and he said, "Nothing's going to help you. Even tzedakah, and he cursed them that you won't find people to give tzedakah to. That you may give tzedakah, but they won't be people." So this is the curse of Yirmiyahu. Even at the time these people are Nasais, they go ahead and they force the Yetzer Hara, and they want to go ahead and give tzedakah in front of you. Be marshal them by sending them people who are not right for tzedakah. They shouldn't be mad mekabel schar. Okay, we'll stop over here. That's the lashon of the Rambam. I sent out, which see the lashon of the Rambam. I sent it out. You have it on your phones and on the screen. I didn't put it on the screen, so you have to wait a second. You have to wait a second till I put it on the screen. But good, we see this? Okay, here's lashon of the Rambam. This is in the 10th parak from Matnas Aniyim. We should be more careful in the mitzvahs of tzedakah more than any other mitzvahs. I say, shahat tzedakah simin l'tzadik zera Avram Avinu. The tzedakah is a simin of Avram Avinu, that you're a child of Avram. Shneimar, because HaKadosh Baruch Hu says by Sidon, the destruction of Sidon, Ki Yadativ, I know him. Lamana Sheyitzav es Banav. That way he'll go ahead and command his children. Last is tzedakah. So by you giving tzedakah, you're illustrating that you are what? You're a child of Avram Avinu. Ela b'tzedakah shneimar b'tzedakah. Ve'en kisei Yisrael miskainim v'das ha'emes ha'medes. Ela b'tzedakah. The throne of Yisrael is not established, and the das emes and the real Yiddishkeit is not only by tzedakah. Shnemar b'tzedakah tichayneni. In tzedakah you have established me. Then Yisrael nigalam ela b'tzedakah. We're going to go ahead and be redeemed through tzedakah. Shnemar tzion b'mishpat tifte b'shevecha b'tzedakah. So this is I'm going to refer to this one more. Let's do one more halacha. La'olam ein adam ma'ani min tzedakah. Nothing bad can happen. You won't become an ani by giving tzedakah. Nothing bad will happen to you if you give tzedakah. Shnemar, tzedakah shalom. Call him marachim. Anyone who's marachim, marachim Allah, Hashem will have rachmanis on him. Shnemar, v'nasam l'cha rachmim, you right? Richamcha, v'herbecha. V'chol mishu achzari. Anyone who's cruel, v'einu marachim, and does not have rachmanis, yesh lachash liyachsai. You should go ahead and check out his yichus. Maybe he has Nishkan Yid. His baby's not from the Zer of Avraham. Right? Onu by Shanam Rachmanim, V'gom Lechasadim Amenam. We have the Midah of Busha, Rachmanis, V'gom Lechasadim, V'gom Lechesed, V'hein Einam. Right? She'ena Achzarius Mitsuya Ela Ba'akam. Only by a guy. Shnemar Achzari, Heima V'lei Rachmeo. V'chol Yisrael V'anilval Aleihem Ke'ach. Achim Heim Shnemar. Anyone who's Yisrael, connected to Yisrael, Banam Atem Lashem Alekechem, V'im Lo Yirachim, Ha'ach ala ach mi rachim. If a brother does not have rachmanas on a brother, who's going to have rachmanas on him? Ulami ani Yisrael noisin einayim. Who will the ani Yisrael go ahead and give their eyes to? Hala'akim shesainam esai, to the akim who hates them, the right machreim and run after them. Einayim kluyas el lacheim. They're only going to go ahead and look after their brothers. So therefore, tzedakah is a huge thing. I heard an unbelievable maisa. An unbelievable Maisa. What we take for granted as a dava, if you ever saw what Goyim give for tzedakah, you would be astounded. You would just be pashut. I mean, pashut astounded. You know, the Mets are giving away for every home run hit this yet $100. So at the end of the year, they'll say, "Well, we made $10,000," and they're saying that that's money. I heard a Maisa b'shem Charlie Harari, an unbelievable Maisa. What you take for granted. A guy in the 5 towns was speeding. He was a collector from Israel. He rented a car and he was speeding. Cop pulls him over, takes a look at him, and he starts speaking to him. He doesn't have a license. He doesn't speak a word of English. And he has this big paper bag on the seat next to him. And the cop says, "What's in the bag?" Looks in the bag and he sees a stash of cash. The cop thought, who knows? Who's running around with a stash of cash in a paper bag? He didn't know. So the guy calls over another Jew and he tells him, the guy tells the cop, this guy's here from Israel. He's collecting for his daughter's wedding. And the cop says, "Yeah, so who's giving him money?" He goes, "Well, he goes from synagogue to synagogue and people give him money." And the cop said, "What are you talking about?" He couldn't believe it. What we take for granted. He couldn't believe it. He didn't trust the guy. They had to call a rabbi. He knew a rabbi, the cop. The rabbi said, "Yeah, that's what they do. They come from Israel. They go door to door." What we take for granted to them is like crazy. Tzedakah really defines the Jew. Our benevolence, our generosity. You don't have to be rich. The generosity, the money. Again, I'm sorry to learn with a very wealthy guy, and he's become a very big money raiser. And I asked him, I said, he's been raising money for Lakewood for the last 3 years. In the last 3 years, he's raised almost $190 million. Almost $190 million. The younger light in Lakewood were getting $300. They're now getting over $1,000. And every yontif, they get $750. So I asked him, I said, what was the most amazing thing? He goes, "You know what? I started out, I didn't know what I was going to do. I had a parlor meeting, 25 people, each person gave me $1 million. He goes, I raised in 5 minutes $25 million. Me, Kamchi Yisrael. You think about it. They have these fundraisers. They charge a fortune and for the president. And it's not really tzedakah. What's it for? For them to have political power when the president, when their backing gets in. It's not lishma. And also, they figure the effect on the country, the president. So they'll give money to that cause. But tzedakah, for charity, it's unbelievable. It really defines the Jew. And the Rambam says it beautifully. If one Jew who's going to help you? The Rambam said, the Goyim will hate you. They're going to help you. They're going to help you. If the Jew doesn't help another Jew, who's going to help us? And that's the truth. And that's the truth.